Well, folks, I want to welcome you to Lawson, Missouri, and we are here with Jim Penney, and Jim is going to be inducted into the CARB Hall of Fame this year in the 2010 class. And Jim, we're going to talk a little bit about your racing career if we could. Jim, what exactly got you interested in racing?
Well, a fellow by the name of Horace Johnson worked with my dad in Omaha, Nebraska in 1951 when I was 10 years old, and he took us both to the races, and from there in, from the beginning, that's where we are today. We're still going to the races.
Just got hooked, and that was it.
60 years ago.
60 years ago. I understand what you're talking about. Was there any particular thing that really kind of grabbed you about racing in the beginning? Was it the competition or the speed? Or?
Well, that was it. This was at Playland Park in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and everybody had a 36 to 40 Ford, and there was like 100 cars in the field. And
holy smokes.
There was so much action out there. Everybody was standing up and yelling and screaming, and they didn't have yellow flags, red flags back then. It was kind of like the last guy running wins. And it was just, I just had never, I was only 10 years old, but I'd never seen anything like that. I was kind of interested in hockey at the time, but I seen that and I said, I can't believe this. Someday I got to drive one of those. And that was the beginning.
That was the beginning. And could you tell us a little bit about, and I think we have a picture of it right here.
This was my
first car.
First car in 1958. I was 18 years old. I was supposed to be going to the Kansas University in Lawrence, but I used to walk down every night and the bottom of the hill behind Roger Wagner's in Roger Wagner's filling station. His dad, we built this car, and I raced at Riverside and Ottawa, Kansas. It was called a claim car. The competitor could buy it for $100. And we're talking 1958 and 59.
Yeah.
Run that car for 2 years. And 1959, I did win 2 features at Ottawa in this car, which really built my ego. And I was leading a 3rd feature when the throttle linkage fell off. But
yeah.
You know, it really got me started on being a race car driver.
Back in those days, we didn't exactly have a lot of the safety features and things.
No, I had
in the cars.
I had a lap belt and an old Cromwell helmet. There's the Cromwell helmet right there. Had the leather sides on it, and that's a primitive, very primitive helmet, and just a roll bar behind the seat, which was a stock seat with the passenger side back off of it.
Yeah, you know, I think we have to be somewhat thankful for the drivers and that we have now from that era, because like you say, boy, the safety features were just not built into those cars in those days.
No, there wasn't any safety features. We didn't even have shoulder harnesses back then. Yeah. So that came when I raced in California in '63. They made us wear a shoulder harness, and my first 37 Chevy out there, we started out when I first raced it had a lap belt, and then they made that mandatory because somebody hit their head on the steering wheel and put a gash in their forehead.
Right. I was going to say, I was just looking at some pictures here recently on one of the internet sites, and the gentleman was wearing a complete white outfit with a white T-shirt.
You had to have white to get in the pits, or you paid $1 more. So we all had white khaki pants with white T-shirts. I've got probably a picture here of me standing by one of these. Yeah. That's
he also had on a pair of dress shoes, which kind of surprised me. Just a pair of leather dress shoes with a real nice shine.
Most of the time back then, I wore cowboy boots, which I still do today. That was the racing shoe of the day.
Racing shoe of the day.
Cowboy boots.
Yeah, leather helmets with goggles.
Yeah.
And it was quite an era.
Well, there's a shot of the 1963 37 Chevy that I raced at Ascot in Gardena, California. Figure 8 and oval. And the first day I joined the association, I got upside down, and we were on KTLA Channel 5 TV, and they had to go for commercial because they were getting me out of the car that was upside down on the back straightaway.
Oh my! Thinking back over your career in racing, is there any one high point that particularly sticks out in your mind that you think back, oh man, I won a feature that night and it was just a great time?
Well, I, I don't really think I was a great driver. I was probably maybe average or a little better than that. But there was a few nights they knew I was there. But the highlight of my career was 1965 at Ascot in Gardena, California. I won the Jalopy Championship and got a pretty tall trophy that's still behind me today on the mantle up there, and a check for $200, which was big money back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for $2.33 an hour at the time in the Sears warehouse in Pasadena. But that has to stick out of my mind as that was my best year.
Yeah.
I came back here, and I think in 1970 I ran third in the points. Tom Carrick won the championship at Riverside, and John Oswald was second. But like I say, I was probably an average driver. I just loved the sport and always loved to be around it, be it spectator, pitman, or driver.
Yeah. What, if that was the high point, can you think of anything in your career where there was just one night where you thought, man, I just wish this night could get over, or I could get out of here, I've had enough?
Well, yeah, there were several of those nights really through the years, but where you sweat through everything that you got on, which back then wasn't a driver's suit or anything. It would be a nylon jacket and blue jeans and boots and leather gloves. And people are going around you, and you're going as hard as you could, and you couldn't do anything. You couldn't go forward. But no, I think the worst time through all those years is the second time I ever run that 47 Ford, and we went out to Riverside and tow-barred it out there, and the darn thing wouldn't start. I mean,
that's not a good night start for the evening.
We didn't even go inside. We was outside working on it, trying to get it to run. It wouldn't start, and finally went back home with my head down.
Yeah.
Because I loved it and wanted to be part of it. And at that time in those cars, racing that 47 Ford, there was people that was my heroes: Art Dischinger, Shorty Eberts, and Chet Hamby. I used to pit next to Chet Hamby that first night and he actually talked to me, which to talk to one of your heroes, that was a big deal back then.
Yeah. Was wondering, you mentioned the money just a while ago. Were you able to actually pay any expenses then? You were saying the $200 was pretty good money, but is it anything close to like what it is nowadays, where these guys are in the hole?
Well, yeah, I think today, I know the equipment costs more, and they really don't pay today what they did back then. But like in '64, we had a 50-lap race at Ascot on the quarter mile, where it paid $500 to win.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
$500 today is, you don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, 45, 50 years ago. But
it was still for the fun of it.
I always did it. I never worried about the money. I just did it because I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think majority of the people I raced with back in the 60s and 70s, we weren't out there for the money.
Mm-hmm.
We were out there to race. That's it. And back, I know we weren't going as fast. The cars were primitive, but we had a good time. We drank some beer after it was over with. Sometimes we drank some beer before it started.
Right.
And I think of Leon Garrett, the guy. He was the bad guy at Ascot. He wore a black helmet, black shirt, black pants, and he was the bad guy. But fortunately, since I drank with him, we were buddies.
Yeah. Well, folks, I'm afraid we're starting to wind down on time. Jim, if you think back, was there anybody in particular that you'd like to thank?
Well, I'd have to thank Orville Allen on the coast. It helped me with the three cars that it took to win the championship in 1965. Jack Gibson in the late 60s that helped me with the Sportsman Super Modified that I drove in 67 at Riverside and Olympic. And last, Gene Chapman that built the 57 Chevy that I've got up in the barn that I raced in the late 60s and early 70s. Last race with that car was 1975. Mm-hmm. All these people are gone, and and I remember them, and